Hello, welcome to Cards by Kendra. Today I'm going to show you the different types of paper that I experimented with when using my brand new Distress Oxide inks. I am very new to Distress Oxide inks, so I've been trying different techniques that I've seen on YouTube and thought I'd share with you the difference between photo paper versus regular cardstock. Now, you will see that I'm using a blending brush, and this is one of the brushes from the Picket Fence Life-Changing Blender Brush Set that I purchased from SimonsSaysStamp.com. And I will say that these are life-changing because when I first started out, I was using the sponge dabbers. I don't know if I'm even saying that right, but those didn't seem to work as well for me. But I'm using the same exact technique that I used on the photo paper on what I'm doing now. I'm blending the pine needles color around first on the leaves, and then I'm cleaning it off with just a microfiber towel. And now I'm going to add the shabby shutters. I colored in on the thinner leaves just to kind of give it a little bit of dimension, and then I added it to the center just like I did on the photo paper above. So just to let you know, I'm using the embossing folder by Park Lane. It's Tropical Border that I purchased at Joann's, and I really didn't have a plan in mind when making this card. I just was trying to see what type of paper would work best. So what I thought was really cool when I used the photo paper, it had this powder, this blue powder look, and I was just like, what? I don't even know what I'm looking at here. So I thought I'd give it a try on regular paper to see if it would turn out better. So I'm spraying it with a little bit of water here. It didn't quite do the trick, so I added a little bit more. And so now it's kind of starting to look like the photo paper, just a little bit. But it didn't look, my photo paper did not look like this. It had a very weird powder coat. And I will show you in just a second what that powder coat looked like, because I had to try it again. Well, this was my first attempt. I tried to ink my embossing folder, and I put the pine needles on the edge and the shabby shutters in the center, but I did it on the wrong side, and then it just kind of smeared. And because I didn't use watercolor paper, it didn't do. So this, I just kind of set that aside. Another attempt that I made was trying to do an ombre effect. Again, I inked the embossing folder with, I believe I used pine needles, shabby shutters, and old olive. And this was my very first attempt. I just ran the, I put in Versamark embossing ink inside the folder, but I did it on the wrong side so that it indented. It was on the indentation side instead of the raised side. So that's why my leaves are white instead of green. Okay, so back to my photo paper. This did not look like this at all. And again, here's my water paper. I call it water paper because it's not water paper. It's just a regular cardstock that's a big floppy mess. So I want to show you what it looked like when I first put the Distress Oxide ink on the photo paper. So as you can see, it starts out green, but then it turns this weird powdery blue. Now, I know this is normal, not necessarily on photo paper, but it has two different types. I guess it's got a powder and a pigment in it so that whenever the water hits it, it reacts. But I don't like this blue at all. But what's cool about it is once you let it dry, it gives you this beautiful, vibrant, bright pine needles green color. I thought I would go in and try to add a little bit of the shabby shutters color to this too. So I decided to heat it with my embossing heat gun just to dry it a little bit. Wasn't really sure what I was looking for, but again, this is experimenting, and I'm new to this Distress Oxide ink world, and I thought that I would maybe try to make some die cut embellishments to put on the inside. So I wanted some matching ink paper to be able to do that. So now that I've got the green pine needles color dry, I'm going to add a little bit of the shabby shutters. But it wasn't quite dry, so guess what? Now my shabby shutters has the bluish green on the edge of it, but that's okay. So I decided to stop using this, and I'm going to take my wet paper towel and wipe this off so you can see just how cool it was whenever I initially wiped off my photo paper with the embossed folder with the leaves on it. So my baby wipe was a little bit too wet, but see how bright green it is? Isn't that neat? So I want to clarify, I used a baby wipe to wipe this off, but whenever I made my photo card, I used a wet paper towel, and I probably should have used a baby wipe to begin with, because it did take me several tries of spraying it, trying to get it wet enough to be able to remove that blue powder. But the look that I was going for is basically to have the same greens that are showing up. Now this is the regular paper, and I ended up not even using it. I'm going to use my photo paper one, because as you can see, it pulls the same green that you see here in this smeared, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to take my die cut that says with sympathy, and I'm going to run it through my Big Shot and use the die cut image in the center of my card. So I'm going to fast forward because I don't want to bore you with all this stuff, but I will show you the finished outcome. So I decided to do the same exact thing with the shabby shutters color on another piece of photo paper, and I ran that through my Big Shot. And because my die had a shadow, I was kind of playing around a little bit with whether or not I wanted to use the green shadow with the shabby shutters words, or vice versa, or just using regular colored cardstock. Now I found this leaf that kind of matched, but I ended up not using it because I decided that it was too big. But I cut out the with sympathy out of just regular cardstock that I had put some of the Sizzix adhesive backing paper on, so that I wouldn't have to mess with the glue. But what I thought was really cool, when I peeled it off, the backing to the adhesive sheet left the a white inside the green shadow border, and I might have to use that on something else. So I'm just going to trim this down to 4 by 5¼ inch. All I had to do was just trim off the edges because my photo paper was 4 by 6. And then I'm going to adhere this to a green, that same green, I believe it was Stampin' Up's Shaded Spruce was the color that I ended up using. It was pretty close to the pine needles. So I'm just going to adhere this to that as a frame and put this on a card base. And again, I said I didn't use the leaf, but I will try to use this with sympathy with the white. I really like that. I might have to use that on a different card. But I want you to look at the regular cardstock back there. That's just a smeared mess. Now here I'm trying to use this other thing that I initially started with, and that did not work out. So I decided to trim down the Shaded Spruce frame by 1/8 of an inch so that whenever I adhered it to my card base, the white would show just a little bit. I found these green clear bubble stickers that I decided I would just place randomly around just to give it that finished look. I had toyed with using that shadow with the white, but whenever I tried to put the glue on the back of it, it just kind of fell apart. So I used the shadow when hoping that I could just use the background and you'd still be able to read it, but then I discovered that the top of the H was missing. Didn't like the embellishment on this one. But I did end up finding it somewhere on my desk, but you'll have to let me know what you think. I really like the photo paper card though. So it's been several hours since I did this, and I wanted to show you the regular cardstock. Did not turn out at all. But this is when I tried to use the sponge dauber. I do not have the knack of blending yet, but that's definitely a work in progress. And I just kind of wanted to share my what I've done so far. This is using a giraffe stencil by Whimsy Stamps. This is watercolor paper, which is what I should have used to show you using this tropical border embossing folder. But this one really turned out nice. It's not very vibrant, but I did the same exact thing using photo paper, and look at the difference. The inside kind of looks like fur, and I did use a sponge dauber on this one. And so I was really happy with the way that turned out. So I'm excited to see what I'm going to come up with for using this. I'll probably use both of them. So you'll have to check out my website, cardsbykendra.com. and see what I come up with. I also wanted to show you this. This is the very first one that I did, and I did this on regular paper. It's 110-pound heavyweight paper, but I used the Crackle background stamp, and I put Versamark and clear embossing powder on it. And then I decided to take my, I believe it was Walnut Stain and Victorian Velvet Oxide Inks. And I just kind of blended those two together using a sponge dauber. So this you couldn't really tell as bad with this Crackle background on it, but I really liked the way this turned out too. And I didn't use any water on it, but I'm excited to see what I'll come up to use with this one as well. So please check out my blog, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. I hope you like my With Sympathy card.